Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Bugs Bunny Factory, the podcast in which we review every single Looney Tunes short. Today we'll be covering 1931, the second year of Looney Tunes. I'm Anna,
And I'm Dorian.
and this is the Bugs Bunny Factory. All right, let's get right to it.
Yeah, so believe we're back. I hope you guys enjoyed the first episode. Um, we still have some not so great cartoons to get through. A lot of Boscos. At least this year we have the first Merry Melodies, which is a big improvement.
The first cartoon of this year is The Big Man from the North, released on January 19th, 1931, and like all cartoons this year, it's directed by Hugh Harman and Rudolph Ising. So in this short, Bosco's like part of the Canadian police, the mounted police, and he's trying to hunt down this big man, the titular big man from the north, who is like some gangster or something. So he goes up to this bar, tries to like take him on this big fight and everything. And yeah,
This is like the most plot any short has had so far. There's it's not like a important or big plot, but it's something other than Bosco like dancing and shit. So it's an improvement in that sense.
yeah. I feel like that puts it like above like any cartoon we've seen yet, which is not really saying anything, but it's like you can like watch this one and there's like something going on, there's some story to follow. I feel like that's like the lowest praise of all time. Wow, you made a story, but like we have really low standards here.
Yeah, I think like the Boscos that I quote unquote like a lot of the time. I mean, there's some exceptions, but a lot of the ones I quote unquote like very good cartoons. Actually, I just like them because all of the cartoons surrounding them are so crappy that I have to give them a little bit of credit.
Yeah, because like if they even try at all, that like just automatically seems better than the alternative, which is just nothing, you know?
This one actually kind of has some gags, like kind of violently. He gets like shot at by Bosco or Bos. What happens?
Yeah.
What happens again?
Yeah, so like I think the big highlight of this one is like the fight scene where there's like a like some pretty violent gags for Bosco standards. He's got like a gun and they're like having like a shootout match. It's like in the bar where like the he meets the big man and ob- obviously Bosco wins. It's pretty like entertaining because there's like some basic idea of slapstick and like a lot of Looney Tunes would be based on that. So good to have something.
Is Honey in the bar? I don't
Yeah,
remember. Yeah,
yeah,
I think
she
she is.
is. She didn't do much in this short, but she's there.
I'm glad she's there. She's an integral part of Bosco cartoons. Without Honey, Bosco would be nothing. Like it's like Mario and Luigi. It's like for two people
Yeah,
duos, like they're inseparable. You need Bosco and Honey. Even if she's not gonna do anything, she has to be there.
and Honey sure does a lot of being there in this cartoon, and I think that's why this cartoon is the greatest cartoon ever made. No, but it's okay. It's fine. It's tolerable. It's like a 5 out of 10, which is like a 5,000 out of 10 for Bosco standards. So yeah,
Okay. So the next short is Ain't Nature Grand. Released on March 14th, 1931, and this one follows Bosco. He goes out fishing, and not a lot happens in this one. This one's kind of reminiscent of the 1930 cartoons. He has a worm that he brings to fish with, and the worm wanders off and like does stuff with a bird and stuff, and the bird chases him, and then Bosco like plays around in the forest and stuff, and that's about it. This one's there's not much to say about. What do you think about this one?
yeah, ain't nature grand, more like ain't nature bland, am I right? Yeah. This
Yeah.
one's really boring. It's really just it's just like Dorian said, it's a return to the 1930 cartoons. It's like instead of having a story, we'll just put Bosco in a place. Here he's in nature, and I guess that's it. We don't have to make a story, no jokes, nothing. It's just Bosco in nature, that's all you get. And I mean, right coming after like a story where there's like even half a plot, it just looks even worse because this is just pathetic. It's just nothing. It's it's a very boring cartoon. Not grand at all, not grand.
I mean, they put him in nature, and nature is pretty grand, according to the title.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I agree that nature's grand, but if I wanted to see nature, I'd go for like a walk or something, go on a hike in the mountains. I wouldn't watch Bosco. That would seem just like a pale imitation of the real thing.
I would watch Bosco personally, so I have to agree to disagree.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah. It's like this
Yeah,
cartoon's like a nature documentary. It's very realistic.
yeah. Everything that happens in this cartoon definitely happens in real life. Like all the animals that are sentient, they're like that in real life. You're just not paying enough attention. Just keep
Are you
going.
saying are you saying animals are not sentient?
No, I'm saying they are. That's exactly what I'm saying. They
Okay,
are.
okay, okay. Yeah, but seriously, guys, it's a really bad cartoon. There's nothing to talk about. Big Man from the North was a small step forward, and this one's a big step back.
Yeah. The only like a smidgen of credit I'll give it is that I thought is like something. They tried, I guess, to not have a short completely focus on Bosco. I don't know. It's not even really a plot. It's just a worm fucking around with the bird, but like you see something else happening, I guess.
It's not a plot.
I know, I know. But like, is like Bosco just going to nature really a plot either? Come on, let's be fair.
No, none of it's a plot.
Yeah, there's no plot here. All right, shall we move on?
Uh, that's Shao.
All right. So this next short is Ups and Downs, and this was released on April 26, 1931. Now, I don't know, this cartoon is fucking ridiculous. It starts off with Bosco working at like a hot dog stand, and then the hot dog has come to life, but then the hot dog stand eagle's completely dropped, and Bosco decides to build a mechanical horse for a horse race, and then he's in a horse race, and yeah, that's it. It just goes from one thing to another without any real logical connection. It just stuff happens. Yeah, ups and downs indeed.
A fun fact about this cartoon, along with some other cartoons around this time, this one has a redrawn, colorized version from 1973. But the interesting thing about it is it's retitled Off the Races. So
Yeah, and even more than that, apparently they changed the ending so that like Bosco, like they okay, like I don't even know what happens. I've never seen the actual redrawn ending, but like something changes that helps Bosco like move better off or something, and that's like that's pretty crazy that they actually went to the effort of doing that because I they're just making it a practically different cartoon by adding that ending.
yeah,
So yeah, pretty interesting.
I don't have much to say about it. It's kind of all over the place. You got the hot dog stand, and then you get sentient hot dog that does an Alf fucking Jolson impersonation, and then you got Bosco doing the horse race shit. Like, I can't say it has no plot, because I mean, it has no plot, but it has a little bit more of something than a lot of the 1930 cartoons, but I really just don't like this one at all. It's not
Yeah,
funny. It doesn't have anything to really write home about.
yeah. I don't like it either that much. I think it's like a little better than the last one at least though, because I mean, I'd rather watch random stuff happens that makes no fucking sense than nothing happens. So, it's something. It's really little, but it's like crumb of an idea.
Certainly a cartoon.
Yeah, it exists. I can say that for sure.
Yeah. I watched it. Do I regret watching it? Kind of. I regret watching all of these Boskos, but somebody has to do it.
Certainly could have better use of your 6 minutes, but then you wouldn't have this podcast, and no one wants that. So
Yeah.
it had to be done.
The most important podcast of all time.
Definitely, definitely.
Revolutionizing the medium.
Yeah. Podcasts will never be the same after this. I mean, they're already not the same. We dropped one episode already.
Yeah. Smash success. We got 100 whole views on YouTube. Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah, eat your heart out, Joe Rogan.
Mostly from people on Discord, so it's not really
Shout
like
out to you
me.
people on Discord. You know who you are.
Yeah. Okay, so the next cartoon is Dumb Patrol. And this one has Bosko fighting in what seems to be World War One, and he's in a fighter pilot, and he's like fighting with this other guy who's a fighter pilot, and it's actually pretty okay. It has a lot of good gags with that. Um, Funnily, in the middle of the cartoon, like while he's in the midst of a fight, he lands his plane into this like completely abandoned, destroyed house, like presumably that was bombed or something, and like Honey's just randomly sitting in there, and there's also randomly a piano in there, and then for like 2 minutes in the middle, they have a dance sequence with Honey and Bosco. So they really had to put that in there. That was a necessary part of the cartoon, and at the end, Bosco beats the bad guy, and it's a pretty okay cartoon. I'm tentative to say this, but I like it.
Yeah. I mean, okay. First off, I just want to note that this short, they actually reused the title for this for a short in 1964, 30 years later. So it's really confusing to talk about. But Dumb Patrol 1931, right here. This short it's pretty good. I think it's like the war gags are funny. It's like a first short that's like actually really heavily slapstick based because there's all like these violent gags of Bosco like fighting out this guy in like a fighter pilot or something. And you know, it's crazy. It's really crazy. And I like how in the middle, after he gets fucking shot down in a plane, he has a dance sequence for 2 minutes and everything's fine until jumps back into the plane to start fighting a war again. Like I'm sure that's definitely how it happens in real life. But pretty
Yeah.
entertaining.
Another interesting thing to note is this cartoon is actually one of the few Boscos to have a restoration, and it's actually a very recent restoration. It was put up on Warner Media Ride, which is like a streaming service, but only like in your car, so it's not like super like accessible, and I imagine not many people have it. So that's the thing. I kind of assumed they meant to put on Dumb Patrol 1964, but just ended up putting on this one and guess just like restoring it for whatever's sake or whatever, you know. I'm glad some 7-year-old kids out there are on a long road trip watching Dumb Patrol 1931.
Yeah, I hope they're as entertained as we are by this awesome cartoon.
Yeah. One of the better Boscos of this year, and I would say this is actually the best Bosco so far. There's a Bosco this year that's gonna top this in a lot of ways, but I would say this is the best cartoon so far that we've watched.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say so too. It's like the first one where you can watch and not be totally bored out of your mind. So hey, hey, we're getting somewhere, I guess. There's some decent entertainment.
I hope the precedent set by this restoration is gonna get all the Bosco shorts restored and put on the great streaming platform that's Warner Media
Oh yeah,
Ride.
such a big draw. I feel like if they put every Bosco on, it'd be the biggest streaming service in the country. People would buy cars just to get Warner Media to ride.
Bigger than Netflix, bigger than Hulu, bigger than Disney Plus, bigger than HBO Max, but bigger than anything you could think of, you know. Everybody would be rushing to get Warner Media rights so they could watch such classics as Ain't Nature Grand and Dumb Patrol and Bosco in Dutch and Bosco's Soda Fountain and all of those classics.
And another classic we're about to cover right now, which is Yodeling Yokels, which came out on June 13, 1931. Now, in this one, Bosco's in the mountains and he yodels a lot, hence the title. And then he meets Honey, who's also yodeling, and they yodel for a while, and then they like fall down a river or something, and Honey's like about to die or whatever. And then there's a side plot which has no connection at all to the actual story, and it's this mouse playing mini golf inside Swiss cheese. But he like uses a pea to like put in like the holes of the Swiss cheese, and it's just there. It doesn't have any connection. It's not explained how it's there or why it's there, but there's this mouse just doing his thing in the middle of the Bosko cartoon.
It's really funny. It's insane. And at the like in the middle of the climax, if you could call it that, with like Bosco and Honey going down the river, it just cuts to the fucking mouse trying to get that pea in the Swiss cheese. And at the end of the cartoon, a real happy ending. He finally gets it in. So
Yeah,
a real happy ending in Yodeling Yokels. Um,
yeah,
most people were gonna focus on Bosco and Honey, but I had all my attention on that mouse.
yeah, definitely. Honestly, I think that mouse like does this short a lot of favors because that was really funny how it just abruptly cut to that. The rest of the short is awful. Beyond the mouse, it's so boring. It's fucking minutes and minutes of just yodeling for no reason. He just yodels. It's like even less of plot than Ain't Nature or whatever. They're just standing around yodeling. It's so dull, and the climax is just so forced out of nowhere that this mouse desperately needed to put any sort of humor into this short, and it is pretty funny, so credit to you, mouse.
And yeah, for the first few minutes, it's like Bosco and Honey are not even in the same place. Like Bosco's going over to Honey, and there's like animation of him like stepping over rocks and shit while yodeling, and that's like 2 minutes of the cartoon, and it's just awful.
Yeah, like the antithesis of comedy or effort in writing.
Yeah.
And there's so little to say about this one because, like, what even is there? There's yodeling. I mean, beyond the mouse, it's just nothing. It's such a nothing short. I can't even like get that mad about it because it's just a void. It's zero. There's nothing here.
Yeah. So the next cartoon is Bosco's Holiday. This one came out on July 18th, 1931, and it follows Bosco and Honey going on a little picnic. Not much happens. I mean, Bosco calls up Honey. They're gonna go on a date or a picnic or whatever. They meet up. They go on a picnic in the park or a forest or something. And Bosco has like a weird car, I think, that he picks up Honey in, and they go eat at a picnic. And there's some sexual content in this one. So as the Looney Tunes wiki says, feeling frisky, he whispers something inappropriate to her, and she stands up, turns up her nose, and licks the FRA. So Bosco made some sexual advances on Honey in this cartoon. And then, and then at the end of the cartoon, there's a dog. They're sitting on a log, and there's a little hole in the log, and the dog takes his tongue out and licks Honey's fucking ass, and Honey thinks Bosco licked her ass, so she gets really mad, and that's how the cartoon ends.
Yeah. So pretty funny for them to put a joke about sexual harassment in their Bosco cartoon.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah. It's a joke, you know. Hey, gotta give them some credit. Kind of funny. Anyway, Bosco's Holiday. It's boring. It's mostly boring. It reminds me a lot of Sinking in the Bathtub, the first cartoon, because it's similar sort of Bosco and Honey having like a day out sort of plot. I didn't like that one. I don't like this one. It's just whatever. Like this one might be a little better because they try with some jokes, but it's just pretty average Bosco cartoon, and it's not really a good thing.
Yeah, it's very reminiscent of Sinking in the Bathtub, and I'd say it's a better cartoon just for those awesome family-friendly sexual harassment jokes in them, but it's overall pretty whatever, pretty bleh. Not much to say about it.
Not terrible, not terrible, but not a whole lot to say. We already discussed Sinking in the Bathtub. You can like just go back and listen to our thoughts on that if you really want to know more.
Yeah, I mean, I really hate that we don't have much to say about these cartoons, but I assure you, we will in the future. We're gonna have a lot more to say about cartoons, even in the next couple of years. Um, maybe a little more than that. Maybe around 1935.
Yeah.
1934 is an interesting year now, so I'm excited for that. Well, kind of
Yeah,
dreading.
that'll be fun for you, the viewer. Maybe
Yeah.
less so for us. Anyway, just short, very forgettable, very little to say about it. It's a Bosco cartoon. It's not the worst, but it's far from the best. Uh, and I think on that note, we'll move on to something that's even worse. And this one's The Tree's Knees, released on July 25, 1931. So this one returns to the nature setting of Ain't Nature Grand. Except this time it's entirely focused on like this woodland forest setting, and there's a bunch of trees, as you might expect from the title. They're sentient trees, and Bosco kind of hangs out with them, and he sings and dances, and yeah, that's where the plot comes to a halt, because that's it. And I don't know if this one's even trying to be funny because it's so awkward and weird, and like the trees are like depressed for some reason.
Well, at the beginning, Bosco is trying to cut down the trees, and then there's this like squirrel that like tells him not to do it, and then Bosco starts dancing with them. So that's a real redemption arc if you really get down to it. It's one of the best cinematic redemption arcs in all of media. It really portrays Bosco as a character who's willing to move past his own mistakes and become a better person.
Yeah, very moving, powerful cartoon.
I cried watching this one actually, and like, it's hard for me to watch, but at the beginning when Bosco's gonna cut down these trees, like do such a terrible thing, and then after that, I get tears of joy from the beauty of Bosco dancing around in the forest with the trees and the animals. It's majestic. It's fantastic. It fills me with pure joy.
Honestly, I think the happy ending to this cartoon is proof that we can have world peace. If we can all be like Bosco, every problem will be solved.
You know the Simpsons episode, Bart's inner child, when they say "be like boy," like be like the boy about Bart Simpson.
Yeah,
You got to be like Bosco instead,
yeah, that's true. That is facts.
like Bosco. It's really a statement to live by.
Yeah,
Every day I wake up, I might feel really shitty, or I might feel like I'm gonna do something bad, like cut down a tree that dances. And I just tell myself I gotta be like Bosco, and then everything's okay.
yeah. You know how some people say, "What would Jesus Christ do?" I say, "What would Bosco do?"
This is true. You really do say that. You say it all the time.
Yeah, it's practically my catchphrase. It's what I'm known for.
Yeah. Well, in all honesty, it's a pretty crappy short, and we're gonna move on to the next one, which is Lady Player Mandolin. And this is interesting because it's the first Merry Melody, released on August 2nd, 1931, and not directed by um, Hugh Harman, but just Rudolph Ising, as I think all of the Merry Melodies were. Um, Basically, it was a series that Leon Schlesinger heard because he wanted to promote Warner Brothers' like catalog of music. That was the original intention of Looney Tunes, but it kind of strayed away from it. So, for a lot of the early Merry Melodies, they're focused on a song, and this song in this cartoon is, well, Lady Play Your Mandolin, and it features a brand new original character who I bet we will see for many shorts to come, called Foxy and his girlfriend Roxy. So that's really interesting. And in this cartoon, I believe they're in Mexico, and it's Foxy at this bar, and he sings the song, and there's this really awesome bartender ape, and yeah, and Roxy's there, and they sing the song and shit, and I mean, Foxy, not Bosco, not Bosco. Bosco could never be in a cartoon this great. Foxy, well, I'm sorry, Bosco is in only great cartoons. I'm sorry. Foxy, Foxy has a horse, and the horse like gets drunk and shit, and then like all of the people like get drunk and shit, and there's crazy dances and crazy drunk animals and shit. I actually really liked this cartoon because I really liked the song, I really liked the animation, I really liked the vibe, I really liked the drunk scene. This is probably my favorite cartoon so far, and these Merry Melodies this year, well, in the future, they're not the greatest, but like right now, it's a big like breath of fresh air in between all of those shitty Bosco cartoons.
Yeah, I definitely agree. This one is very, very refreshing after Bosko. I mean, just the fact that we're getting like a new character at all. I mean, not like Foxy has the most personality ever, but just some variety, mixing it up, something new. And I think the song in this one is very good. That's a good thing. But the main draw in this is the crazy hallucinating while drunk, and then just a bunch of crazy animated stuff happens. Those drunk scenes, I think, were like some of the first real, like, really utilizing the medium of animation to get all those like wacky, zany visuals out of it. And it's entertaining. It's fun stuff. And you know, I think the theme of being in a bar is really interesting because this was still during Prohibition, so that's why it's in Mexico. That's why they had to go down there to get drunk because couldn't do that in America.
I think I kind of vaguely realized that, but I didn't really put two and two together. That makes a lot of sense now that I think about it. It's really just a fun cartoon. I recommend watching it if you haven't seen it already. There's a new restoration of it that MeTV did on Tune In With Me, which is really cool.
Definitely. I think this is a great start for Merry Melodies, a much stronger start than Looney Tunes had, and definitely the best cartoon so far. Probably the first one, and I actually say that like I genuinely like, not just like for like the standards of what we have already. It's a step up. It's something that's I could put on and get some entertainment and must be solid fun, sure.
I agree completely.
All right. And next up is another Merry Melody featuring Foxy. It's called Smile Darn Yes Smile. Now this came out on September 5th, 1931, and this one features Foxy having a trolley and driving it around town and getting into a bunch of wacky shenanigans with passengers. Um, it's pretty fun. It's pretty fun, short, and I like I like just seeing the gags of like the passengers that Foxy gets into, and the song is undeniably very catchy. It's iconic, you could say. It was used in Roger Rabbit. You might have heard it before. It's a classic. It's very pretty fun short. Not quite as entertaining as Lady Play Your Mandolin, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah, like this one has some billboard gags, or not billboard, but like there's advertisements in the trolley, like they have in like subway cars and shit, and there's like they come to life, so it's kind of a precursor to like those books come to life shorts or objects come to life, which is interesting to see this early on.
The sign gags, I think, were pretty interesting, as Dorian mentioned. And, you know, I do think that they put a bit more effort into these Foxy cartoons than they did for the Boscos, maybe because they were promoting something new. They wanted to try a little bit harder to make this character stick, which it unfortunately didn't. But, you know, they were definitely trying to be a bit funnier here. And it's not like amazing. I don't particularly love this one. I would probably, like I said, I prefer it less to play your mandolin, but it's still enjoyable. It's got fun moments, and I think it's a solid enough cartoon. It's I also would say it's better than what came before, excluding Lady Slayer Mandolin. So good on this short.
Yeah, I'm gonna address the elephant in the room, which is Foxy and Roxy are pretty obvious ripoffs of Mickey and Minnie Mouse by design, and they don't really have any personality. So that lack of personality really sticks out to make them look just completely like soulless clones. And I believe Walt Disney actually like told them to stop using the characters. So eventually, after a couple of shorts, they retired.
I think Walt Disney even threatened to sue. Like he was not happy about this.
Yeah. Well, overall, this is a pretty fun cartoon. I like it quite a bit. Anna seems to like it quite a bit, maybe not as much as I do, and I enjoy it. Okay, so the next cartoon is Bosko's Shipwrecked, and this was released on September 19th, 1931. And this one's not a great one, guys. It starts off with Bosko on a boat during a storm, and he gets shipwrecked, as you might imagine, on an island of some sort, or maybe it's not an island. It's unclear. It's definitely in Africa, as we'll see later. Um, and he sees some animals. There's like a parrot that's like fucking with him, and it pisses him off and shit. And he like runs through the jungle, and there's lions, and there's an alligator and shit. But towards the end of the cartoon, Bosco unfortunately, Bosco runs into an African village, and it's a really dehumanizing and racist portrayal of African tribes, and of course, through cannibals and want to eat Bosco, and it's super racist, and it's really awful.
Yeah, it's just really hard to talk about this one because the end part of it is just so bad. It's so just fucked up. It's it really like overshadows any of the rest of this cartoon because it's awful, the caricatures, and I don't even know what more to say about it other than it's just horrible, horribly racist, and just really awful stereotype that has been around for a long time and is in a lot of other shorts and is really, really bad, really just terrible.
Yeah, and like the beginning of the short isn't even very good either, so it's really disgusting. It's dehumanizing. It's villainizing. It's all of these terrible, terrible things. And if you like this cartoon, I guess fuck you because you're probably racist.
Yeah, yeah, there's no defending this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it goes without saying that this one is very bad.
Yeah. I don't have much to say about it other than it sucks. It's racist,
Yeah,
and don't
don't.
watch it.
Well, moving on, we have One More Time, which is released on October 3rd, 1931. And this is the final short featuring Foxy and Roxy. And this one casts Foxy as a cop going through a city and um, repeatedly singing a song trying to crack down on crime, his motto, one more time, no more crime, and writing up people for really minor things like traffic violations. And eventually, Roxy is kidnapped by a group of gangsters, and Foxy goes to save her, but he succeeds, but it's sort of a Pyrrhic victory because he gets shot in his asshole by one of the gangsters after that. So that's where the cartoon ends.
Yeah, it's a pretty fun cartoon. It's a pretty fun song. I actually can't find the original song, so I'm not sure if this is an original song for the short or not. If anybody knows, please let us know. Another interesting thing about this one with what's the other one? Ain't Nature Grand. This one was no, no, not Ain't Nature Grand. With Ups and Downs, is this one was also colorized and retitled to On Duty in
Yeah, it
1973, I
was.
think.
This cartoon, I really like it personally. I think it's actually my favorite of the Foxy cartoons, personally. And I think this one works because it's just got such nice energy to it. The music's fun, the song's catchy, and I like the gags. The fight at the end is pretty funny, and Foxy's various interactions with people, like the hippo who's committing a traffic violation, are pretty amusing, pretty entertaining. Solid short. I think this one's like one of the best shorts of this year, and I'm a big fan of it. Yeah.
I have to agree to disagree with it being the best Foxy shirt, but it's a very good cartoon. Okay, moving on to the next short, we have Bosko the Doughboy, released on October 17th, 1931. This one's really interesting. This one also takes place in World War One, like Dumb Patrol, but instead of Bosco in a plane, he's in fucking trench warfare. And there's just a lot of great, funny gags in this cartoon. And there's, I don't know, it's a really stellar Bosco cartoon, and it's very akin to what they would do later on with much better cartoons. Um, there's not much of a plot. It's just gags in the trenches, and they're fighting and shit. Unfortunately, at the end, it ends with a blackface Mammy Al Jolson joke, which kind of puts a sour taste in your mouth at the ending. But it's a very good cartoon, and I recommend to watch it if you haven't seen it already.
I think this one does what Dumb Patrol is doing a little bit better because there's much more variety in gags beyond just the basic air warfare. There's not really also the middle part of like the singing and dancing. There's also like this wide other cast of characters, the soldiers, like this dog that Bosco's friends with who gets into a bunch of shenanigans, like getting attacked by fleas. And it's a really high energy cartoon. There's a lot of stuff going on here. It's not super plot heavy, but so many gags, and it just keeps you entertained. And it really just makes you wish they could have done more stuff like this in Bosco cartoons because it's like so much more entertaining than like anything else we've seen this year in the Bosco realm.
Yeah, it's honestly a little disappointing. Like, if they're capable of doing this, why can't they do more cartoons like this? So it's disappointing that a lot of the Boscos continuing are still very mediocre, and this one's just a very solid, funny cartoon, and I highly recommend it to those who haven't seen it.
Definitely worth a watch. One of the best Boscos for sure. Yeah. Next up, we have You Don't Know What You're Doing, released on October 21st, 1931. Now, this cartoon is Foxy and Roxy are out, obviously, and now they're replaced with Piggy and Fluffy, who are probably even less distinctive characters. But this is their first appearance. This short starts off with Piggy going to like some nightclub and getting into a fight with like one of the people performing. And then there's like a drunk heckler who also pisses off Piggy. But then eventually Piggy gets drunk and he goes to chase the car. The car is like running away and like he's drunk along with the heckler who's also running around with him. So they're hallucinating as they're trying to follow this car, and everything in the city is all like bouncing around, and like there's all this crazy animation going on. It's a very interesting hallucination sequence leading up to the end of the cartoon, and I thought that was like what they were doing in Lady Player Mandolin took up to 11.
Yeah, that it's an amazing sequence. It's one of the best pieces of animation. Might it probably is the best sequence in the entire harmonizing era. The musical timing is phenomenal, and it's completely off the walls and rubbery and stretchy and exaggerated. I think it was actually animated by Frizz Freeling. I might be wrong on that, but if so, props to you, Freeling. It's one of the best animation sequences, not just in this era, but in a lot of Looney Tunes as a whole. It's very impressive for the time, especially.
Yeah, definitely. It's really entertaining, and I think this cartoon is like great for it. Like the start of it is like not amazing. It's pretty entertaining, but it's not the best thing ever. But this part is just like blows me away. It's like maximizing rubber hose animation to its fullest extent, just creating this world which is like totally out of control. Everything is moving constantly, totally bouncy, totally just utilizing the medium to its full potential. And you know, really like a lot of the stuff before this was super stiff and not really that energetic. So this is refreshing. This is good to see. This is yeah, this part big fan of this ending sequence. And I think that alone puts this as probably the best cartoon of this year.
Yeah, it's amazing. The song is also very catchy, and it's an amazingly animated cartoon. It all throughout, it's beautifully animated, and it's a real highlight of the entire harmonizing era of the studio. So I highly recommend this one too to anybody who hasn't seen it. Um, yeah, if I had to recommend any 1931 cartoon, I would tell you, you gotta watch You Don't Know What You're Doing, if not just for that amazing hallucination sequence with the car.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, so the next cartoon is Bosco's Soda Fountain. Released on November 14th, 1931. This one follows Bosco as a soda jerk. He's making root beer floats and milkshakes and shit, and there's some gags with him working at the store. And this one actually introduces a new recurring character in the Bosco series of Wilbur, where it's unclear the relation, but Honey is always with Wilbur. It's unclear. I doubt she's his child. It might be like her nephew or like little cousin or something. It's very unclear, but she's teaching him how to play piano, and then he wants some ice cream, so she calls up Bosco to get Wilbur some ice cream. And at the end of the cartoon, Bosco delivers the ice cream to Wilbur, who's a real prick. He's spoiled as fuck. And it ends with Wilbur saying, I don't like vanilla, which is a classic cinematic line. I don't like vanilla. Like, who else could come up with it than Hugh Harman?
Definitely. I don't like vanilla, just like one of the most iconic ending lines for Looney Tunes. It's actually quite funny, honestly, that ending gag. And the bratty, obnoxious voice of Wilbur just makes it. He's a character who actually has like a clear personality, and that's something new for harmonizing. So props to you for that. I think this cartoon is okay. It's better than average for the Bosko shorts. A lot of the stuff with like the actual scenes at the soda fountain itself are kind of slow, but there's some movement, some gags, and I think the extra element of Bosker trying to deliver the ice cream and Wilbur's character and the anticipation gives this story a little something extra. And I think it's okay. It's not amazing, but it's a solid short. I don't entirely regret watching.
It's okay, yeah. It's your average Bosco cartoon. It's not very good. It's not awful or anything. I can't say I recommend it, but it's a very good idea of what a standard Bosco cartoon is like. So, if you want to see the average Bosco, go watch Bosco's Soda Fountain. I don't imagine many of you want to see a mediocre cartoon starring a racial stereotype, but if you do, watch this one.
All right, and on that note, next up we have Hidden the Trail for Hallelujah Land, which is
Oh
released
boy.
on November 28, 1931. This is the second and final short featuring Fluffy and Peggy, but that's not what anyone's noting this short for. This one is the first of the very infamous censored 11. Um, in 1968, the Looney Tunes shorts were previously divided up between several like rights holders, right? And one of them was United Arts, who owned mostly color cartoons and Merry Melodies. Uh, and out of all their library, with By 1968, they had recognized 11 shorts to be way too racist and offensive to ever possibly be distributed again. So they were officially banned then. And these cartoons have had a lot of notoriety for that reason. Very infamous cartoons. This one is the first of this unfortunate series. And yeah, it's racist.
Sure is. So what happens in this cartoon, Anna? I've heard of it being racist, which it is.
Yeah, this one is really shitty because even if it weren't racist, it would still be a really shitty cartoon because it's a blatant ripoff of two Disney shorts actually in its story, which is Steamboat Willie and the Skeleton Dance. If you compare those shorts side by side, you'll notice it's the exact same thing, except in this one they use the Skeleton Dance element to have racial stereotypes of black people, which is really, really bad. It's terrible. Like, not only is it ripping something off, but it's making it extremely racist in the process. Just awful cartoon. Everything it does is totally wrong, totally like morally wrong, and it's just fucked up. Obviously deserving of its place in the censored list.
Yeah. I can't say anything that you haven't already said about this cartoon. It's just a racist piece of trash that has no value to it, especially the fact that it's also just a complete fucking Disney ripoff. So there's
Yeah,
no point
usually
in
don't have fun.
watching or giving any credit to this cartoon whatsoever. It's really bad in every way possible. Okay, so moving on from that unfortunate cartoon, we have Bosco's Fox Hunt, which not aired, was released on this December 12th, 1931, and it follows Bosco and Bruno, which is, I believe it's Bruno's first appearance. Bruno's Bosco's dog, and they're hunting this fox, and there's also like kind of like a race of like at the same time, but like the main focus is Bosco and Bruno hunting the fox, and the fox is pretty. He's a prick. He fucks around with them, and there's a lot of good gags with Bosco and the fox outsmarting Bosco and Bruno, and it's a pretty funny art cartoon, and it's one of the better Boscos from this year. Um, if you gotta watch a Bosko from this year, other than Bosko the Doughboy, I'd say go watch this one. Um, it's pretty funny. It's pretty solid for the time, and I don't know if I recommend it, but it's certainly a decent, above average Bosko cartoon.
Yeah, I agree. I think this one definitely starts off a bit slow, which is to its disadvantage, but it gets it once the actual fox is introduced. It's pretty funny because it's got like a similar sort of dynamic to what Link to be most famous for, which is like the hunter versus prey, and the prey totally outsmarting the hunter in wacky ways. And this has that, and it's very fast paced and energetic. In that second half, some good gags. Not like amazing. This isn't Rabbit Fire, but it's pretty good, pretty entertaining, and a bit slow to start, but gets better towards the end. Way above average for Bosco standards.
Yeah, it's a pretty good cartoon. The fox kind of looks like it's basically just Foxy's design, except he's, well, naked. Well, foxes are naked, and obviously, and Foxy wears clothes, so it's not like he's really naked or anything. I mean, he's really naked, but it's not like it's a bad thing. It's the same design as Foxy, basically, without clothes.
And now we have reached the final cartoon of 1931. At long last, we have Red-Headed Baby, released on December 26, 1931. Now, this cartoon is noteworthy for being the first cartoon with no character that you're seeing ever again. There's no, even like a minor recurring character, there's nothing. It's just the first complete one-off short. And this would end up taking up most of the Merry Melodies being one-off shorts for a while. they completely ditched the whole making a secondary character behind Bosko angle. And this one is a common formula we're going to be seeing in Merry Melodies. Objects come to life, and that's really just about it. Also, at the end, there's the predictable forced climax of villain captures girlfriend, and the hero has to save the damsel in distress, and it's just groan worthy every time this trope comes up. It's just it's so dated and it's so lame, it's so forced, it's ugly in many ways, and it's used so much, it's exhausting. This particular short doesn't stand out. It's very, very lame. There's so many shorts just like this, and I really don't have much to say about it. It's boring, and I don't like this format or plot at all.
Yeah, this one's really reminiscent of Frizz Feeling's early Merry Melodies that come a little later. Uh, Song and Dance, Abductor Plot, Spider abducts the red-headed baby, and Napoleon the toy soldier has to save her. Um, only thing and there's a song and dance at the end again. The only thing I really like about this cartoon is I think the song is pretty catchy. I enjoy a lot of these early Merry Melody songs. They're a lot of times they're a highlight to the cartoons. It's pretty shitty effort in that. There's a lot of racial stereotypes with the toys, as a lot of toys back then, like even fucking toys depicted awful racial stereotypes. So this cartoon has some unfortunate moments with blackface dolls and such. So along with that, it's a pretty shitty cartoon, and it's just not very good.
Yeah, that's it. Ending 1931 on kind of a sour note with this cartoon that's completely indistinguishable from so many others. Just sucks. Nothing to say about it.
Yeah, it sets a really bad precedent for Merry Melodies in the future. While a lot of the Merry Melodies previously were pretty strong, this one, Hidden Trail, obviously excluded, this one just sets a really bad standard for the future, and certainly pick up that standard, especially when Frizz Feeling comes along during the 1934.
Yeah. Well, with that, we've done it. We made it through all of 1931. So I believe it's time to do our top and bottom five, which is something we can actually do now because there's more than five shorts.
So, starting this off with the bottom five cartoons of 1931, we have Yodeling Yokels. It's just a really lame cartoon reminiscent of those 1931 Bosko shorts, and its only saving grace is that admittedly funny bit with the mouse and the playing golf with cheese and a pea. It's unintentionally funny, obviously, but that has some sort of humor in it that these upper shirts don't have in coming up. So it's just a really poor cartoon, and I have nothing good to say about it other than that.
Yeah. And at number four, worst of this year, we have The Tree's Knees, which is so boring that we said basically nothing about it when we were actually supposed to talk about it. And what are we supposed to say about it here? It's boring. It's like the epitome of boring. I couldn't think of anything more boring than this if I tried. It's soul-suckingly boring, and that guaranteed it a spot on this bottom five.
Yeah, next we have Ain't Nature Grand, which is really similar to The Tree's Knees. It's just, again, really boring, and there's no gags inside. It's basically a 1930 Bosco. Yeah, there's nothing to say that we haven't been said, just a really crappy cartoon.
And at number two, we have Bosko Shipwrecked, which is obviously here for the horrible racial stereotypes in the last couple minutes of this short, which just completely damage any possible credibility that this could have because it's just so fucked. It's so bad. And yeah, that was gonna be on here for sure.
Number one, quite obviously, we have Hidden a Trail to Honolulu Land. And this one's super racist. A blatant ripoff of Steamboat Willie and the Skeleton Dance, and it has no merit to it whatsoever. Like, there's nothing to enjoy about this cartoon. It's just awful. It's an awful cartoon. Moving on to the top five, on a more positive note, we had some pretty decent cartoons this year, and started off, we had Smile, Don't You Smile. Pretty fun, merry melody with Foxy and Roxy singing the titular song. Some funny gags, and just overall, lighthearted and fun cartoon, and I recommend it.
All right, at number fourth best of this year, we have One More Time, which is another Foxy, and this one's also another solid Foxy cartoon, obviously. This one has great music, very amusing gags with Foxy getting into trouble with gangsters and sort of having a draw at the end. I thought that was very amusing, plus other funny moments with him and the hippo, and just all around pretty entertaining short. So very solid, good merry melody.
Number three, we have Lady Play Your Mandolin, the first ever Merry Melody cartoon, the first cartoon featuring Foxy. We have all of the fucking Foxy cartoons on this list because they're all pretty good. Um, yeah, this one's just really fun. I love the animation. I love the music. I love the song, the music and the song. Yeah, it's just a really fun cartoon, and I recommend it to anybody who hasn't seen it. And the MeTV restoration of it is beautiful.
Yeah. And at number two, we have Bosko the Doughboy, which is the only Bosko short on our top five, but it's a very good one. One's just super fast paced, lots of gags, very entertaining. Basically, the best that Bosko could do, and just like a lot of funny jokes, a lot of interesting characters. Definitely recommended.
Yeah, number one, no surprises here. We have You Don't Know What You're Doing, which is an amazing cartoon, beautiful animation, has that beautiful sequence with the car and Piggy, and it's amazing, an amazing song. It's just an overall fantastic cartoon, and it's definitely one of the first truly great Looney Tunes. So that wraps up our top five of 1931, and wraps up basically this episode.
Also, it goes without saying that 1931 is above 1930 in our ranking, but that won't really come into play until later.
This was not the best year, but it definitely was an improvement on 1931. And on that note, this is Dorian.
Xana,
This is the Bugs Bunny Factory. See you next episode on 1932.